Good morning, AMI fans. Happy New Year to you. It's time for AMI Commutes, episode 6. Let's get to it. It is Saturday the 7th of January and it is miserable today. Raining, windy, horrible. Just blowing a gale as usual. I've got the windows cracked up a little bit, so we'll probably have quite a bit of wind noise as well as all the other noise. Edit most of it out. Yeah, but got noise reduction in the edit, but it'll probably still be a bit rubbish, so for that I do apologise. It's about 7:30, about 8 o'clock start today, which isn't as bad. More chance of people actually being awake, trying to deliver to them between 8 and 10 than there is between 6 and 8, so that should be a little bit more pleasant than the last shift. And of course in the last video we talked a lot about what we're going to do in 2023 and quite a few responses to that, so thank you very much for that. So the first question I asked was around, what do you want to see, and do you have anything weird or wonderful and economy focused that you'd like me to pit head to head with AMI? And I'm pleased to say a number of you have reached out via email to say, well, I've got this, I've got that, and I'm not going to reveal anything that might be on the cards just yet. Mostly because I haven't responded to a number of you, so if you've emailed me and I haven't responded, I'm not ignoring it. They're just super busy, but there was some really cool responses, some really interesting stuff that I think would make some really entertaining videos if we put up head-to-head with AMI in some shape or form. So I do think that is definitely going to be on the cards. Probably as we move into the spring, the weather gets a little bit nicer. I think especially for some of you with some real proper classics there, taking them out in the rain and the salt and all that stuff isn't really on, is it? Although I did have one guy say he had something really very old and special that he was using as his daily driver, so fair play on that front. I guess there'll be no worries there, but that is pretty impressive. If you missed the last video, basically the ask is if you've got something small, economy focused, preferably a little bit weird and wonderful. I said before, I'm not really bothered about your 2005 Ford Focus, but if you've got something that was designed from the offset to be about urban mobility, to be small transports, individual transport, just like AMI, and obviously there's not much like AMI out there, but there's definitely been various attempts over the ages to do something reasonably similar with the technology that was available at the time. So if you think you've got something that qualifies along those lines, there's an email address in the description. Drop me an email and I will get back to you. It might take a little bit of time, but I am reading every email and I will get back to you. And I think that we can do something really cool. We can do some comparison stuff. If you want to, of course. Obviously, if the last thing you want is for me to turn up with this on the back of a trailer and start shooting video, then, maybe not. But if you are interested in that, drop me a line and we'll see what we can do. The other thing we talked about a little bit was merchandise, whether it was something you wanted to see. But I had a very mixed response on that, and I would say there was probably more people that said that wasn't something they were particularly interested in than said that they were. So I think we will put that idea on ice at the moment. I don't think it's worth me exploring, because like I said before, at a minimum I need to get some artwork created. There'll be some cost and some lead time involved with that. This guy's in an awful hurry to get to his ride line. Interesting. There'll be some cost and some overhead involved with that, and I just don't think it'll be worth it, to be honest. At this point in time, obviously some of you might be absolutely dying to see some AMI merch, but at the moment it doesn't look like it's a goer, so we will put that on ice for now. Another shift over at last, and another dark, dingy, horrible evening. At least it's not raining anymore. It's been raining all day. I'm soaked, thoroughly soaked to the skin, which is great fun. It is doing this job in the rain. But it is over and it is time to go home. Time to go home and edit this video. Excellent. Noticed a few more little smatterings of good news on the various AMI Facebook groups, people taking delivery. As we enter the new year, people getting some good news and getting their vehicles delivered, which is really cool. It looks like there's quite a lot of you waiting on the Pop model or the Vibe. So if you order a Pop or a Vibe, it seems there's quite a lot of people still waiting on those. There's even a little group of people who are tracking various ships. So they've been told by the AMI team that there's 2 or 3 ships on route to the UK with various AMIs on board, and so people are trying to work out which ones those are, having looked at cargo ships leaving Morocco at the nearest port to the factory, and then trying to work out which boat they might be on, and actually tracking that, which is really cool. That people do that a lot on the MG EV owners groups and stuff, because it's very obvious that when there's a ship coming over with MGs on it, because SAIC, the Chinese car manufacturing conglomerate that owns MG, actually have their own ship that they bring over full of cars from China. So it's really, really easy to work out which boat you need to be tracking. It's proving a little bit harder than that with AMI, I think, but people are trying the hardest. So there's a lot of you waiting very patiently. Well, you've probably been patient up until now, but I think patience is probably wearing thin when it comes to, you know, if you're one of the early people that ordered like I was. I don't think there's anybody quite as early as my order still waiting, but there's certainly some people that were due delivery in October that are still waiting, so that's not good. We've seen delays on certain models, and like I say, I think it's primarily the Pop and the Vibe models that people seem to be waiting on a lot. It seems if you order just the base model, or the base model with a colour pack like I did, that they seem to be fulfilling those orders very quickly indeed. So some people have got really lucky. If they've ordered either a base model or a colour pack model, they're turning up in no time at all. Even some people are even getting, apparently, I mean, from what I've read, I don't know how true this is, but some people seem to be getting them even in less time than the 14 weeks, which is what's advertised as the sort of official lead time for a new order. So that's really cool. If you know, some people are getting lucky, but unfortunately there are a few people still waiting. Let me know in the comments what's going on with yours, if you're still one of the unfortunate few still waiting, or if you placed an order recently, or indeed if you've had good news recently and you've had your AMI delivered. Let me know. Very keen to know. I'm always very keen to keep a close eye on what's going on with the UK order fulfillment, and I know it's an exciting time and a frustrating time for a lot of people, so do let me know in the comments what's going on. So it's a little bit odd this evening. I've got 14 miles of range remaining, and I seem to be experiencing what some people do now and again, which is very similar to in the cold weather, where you get a beep and you go into kind of limp mode and it's extremely slow. I'm not quite sure why we're doing that this evening. It's not particularly cold. I'll try an ignition cycle and see if that improves things. It's far from ideal crawling around, barely able to get to 20, never mind 28. But yeah, I don't know. Normally associated with cold weather, can sometimes do it when the battery's at a low state of charge, but I mean 14 miles, we're not that low. Could be lower, could be a lot lower. No sign of any sort of warning on the dash, no turtle, nothing like that. Seems to, an ignition cycle seems to sort it out a little bit for now. I think it might be most common when the heater is on, so I had the heater on because it was getting a bit steamed up, and that seems to encourage it to go into this sort of reduced performance mode when the battery's at a low state of charge. Now I've turned the heater off and we've done an ignition cycle. Hopefully we'll get home without experiencing that again. Some more EV news coming for you this week coming up. I think there might be 2 actually, so there'll be the normal sort of weekly EV news, and then I'm going to do some coverage of CES, the Consumer Electronics Show, at which there was a number of EV related announcements, both from car manufacturers and people that make bits for cars and what have you, all related to EVs and the future of EVs. So keep an eye out for those videos. I think they'll be quite interesting. Certainly if you're interested in the wider electric car world and not just AMI, you'll want to be keeping an eye out for that. Make sure you're subscribed and have notifications turned on so that you don't miss out on those. Speaking of range anxiety, well, range anxiety, it's got 13 miles remaining on the old guessometer here. It's only a couple of miles to home, so I'm not bothered, but probably the biggest amount of range anxiety I ever experience is at work, driving a diesel van, and where someone's maybe not filled it up the night before, or otherwise, if you're just running low on diesel. Because the thing is, if you're doing a delivery job, can't just go and get a diesel. You need to work that in, so you need to make sure you're making a drop somewhere near the petrol station, and hopefully you'll have enough spare time to fill up without ending up running behind and stuff, because these things aren't really planned into the schedule. It's assumed that the van will have enough diesel in it. So yeah, even though, I mean, don't get me wrong, the vans that we use, because they've got the chiller unit and stuff, they've probably only got about a 300-mile range at most, with a stupidly large tank. But the range anxiety you end up with when someone forgets to fill it up, it's very, very real, just because you find yourself having to limp around with the fuel warning light on until you're in a position to go to the petrol station and not completely ruin your day, by ending up running behind. So that's range anxiety, and that's more range anxiety than you'll ever experience in army, I think. So that brings us to the end of another AMI Commutes. Arrived back with 12 miles remaining on the gasometer, so it didn't do too badly. Didn't see the return of the reduced performance mode, so I do wonder if using the heater when the battery's running a bit low maybe encourages it to do that. I don't know. It still remains a little bit of a sort of dark art in terms of, it's like it got a bit of a mind of its own when it wants to do that. I thought the cold weather was the main driver, but it seems that just maybe not. When the battery's running a bit low, it's not so keen either. So there we are. But a quick ignition cycle, and it went back to full power, and we got home without any more problems. So it's all good. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.